Gaming and BS, episode 329, being recorded Monday, February 15th, 2021. Welcome to Gaming and BS, the tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back to all our listeners. Glad to have you all here. And if you're new, goddamn, glad you're here. Awesome to have you. Sean, how the heck are you, man, since I talked to you last? Doing well?
I'm doing fantastic, Brett. How are you?
I'll give you the Wisconsin. You keeping warm, huh? Keeping warm?
Keeping warm. Keeping warm.
Good. Staying warm. That's good.
Staying warm, yeah.
Staying warm. That's good. Good.
Yeah.
I had my dad came over on Saturday to help me do some electrical work. My father used to be an electrician.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, he was an electrician, so I get free electrical work.
Nice.
He gets in exchange, he gets free computer assistance. So, I think I've told you this. My mom has dementia, so and that's Alzheimer's stuff. So, one of the things that happens is my dad's like, I'll come over to your house and do a lot of work and hang out with you. You just have to keep track of your mother. So my dad needs some break periodically, which is fine. She's a sweetie, so. Susan, my daughter Lana, hung out with mom and AJ and I. And AJ learned how to pull wire and connect up light switches and stuff. And I reminded him, I said, this is very important. He said, why? I said, because after this bathroom in the basement comes the game room. He said, ooh. I said, see, it's very important because the faster you learn how to do this, the faster you and I can get the game room wired up. So he's happy.
I came close to being an electrician. I mean, that could have been the whole route I went, but I didn't.
It's not a bad gig, man.
It's not. I got a buddy of mine who's a year older than me that's running the show for a shop, and I know he does fairly well for himself, actually.
As I'd remind AJ, I said, remember that internet thing you love so much? There's none of that without electricity. You kind of need that to get on that thing that you love. So.
Well, a lot of those guys are pulling Cat 5 and Cat 6 and stuff.
Totally
too.
are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Anyway, dude, what did you game? Any gaming? Do anything? Rolling dice?
I
flipping chips?
Gamed in Hobbs's Low Fantasy Gaming and we got whooped up on, but we survived,
As you do. Tough
as
gamers.
You do. Yeah. It was, we could have split, but I decided not to. I'm like, hey, man, I've taken like 0 hits. I'm going in there and taking that thing. And then I didn't take that thing. So, then it was time to go.
I just bragged a lot and then left.
Yeah. That's then this Thursday, session 1 of Forbidden Lands will be kicking off.
Cool.
I think it's going to be probably a 2-hour session. Nothing too long. It'll be the first one, getting our feet on the ground. And then next Thursday, I will be doing a Star Wars game.
Nice.
For sure. And then... So that's what I have for gaming, but I have an announcement, but I will wait to mention it. Unless we want to mention it now. It has to do with gaming.
We'll do it later. We'll do it at the tail end.
Okay.
Of course. I got to run my Greyhawk game again. First time post-surgery doing that with a crew. It was a blast. It was no combat. It was all role-playing, figuring stuff out, finding information. They did some shopping. They found a wizard who was connected to Mordenkainen, who they're kind of connected to, so they're able to do some secret hand signals, secret handshake type of thing, and get a deal, swap some stuff, pull some data. And they made up a really good contact with a group of dwarves. They had I'd hinted that this group was there, relation to the Stonefist clan that they'd met before. And the NPC wizard dropped that they might need a guide going into the mountains that they're heading into in just outside of the grand city of Gorna, which is the capital of the Duchy of Jeff. Anyhow, so they're heading up into the Crystal Mist Mountains, and I'm like, hey, you guys might need a guide, says the NPC. And immediately Lenny's like, hey, there's another clan of dwarves here. We should go find them. And it was perfect. I dropped a little clue. They sucked it right up and went immediately where they needed to, and they're absolutely ready. They got a high-level NPC ready to come with them who's got a life debt to repay the clan. It's awesome. It worked out beautifully. Very good, very good. I have learned, because we're doing it fairly old school, as I said before, where I'm awarding experience points every session, because the advancement tracks are different. So you level up, rogues level up faster than so-and-so, than such and such. Lenny lost his experience point tracker, so he had to do a quick look. You have 6,652 or whatever it was. And I have learned, I as you know, I don't give two shits about balance per se, but I want the players especially to feel successful at a certain point. And they're at that critical juncture where they're 4th level. And in 1st edition, the 4th to 5 is a big to get to hazard class. It's a big step there. Lenny's dragging behind his fighter as he's a little bit because he missed a session. So they were kind of bemoaning the fact that they found some really good swag. They got some good magic items, but they don't. A couple of them had some really bad die rolls. They just can't. We get on there and Nick can't roll over a 12, so he can't hit shit. But they're looking at the hit charts and they're like, oh man, one more level. And then it adjusts for me and I get better hit ratios and all that stuff. So I think I may have been a little stingy on the XP to start with. So I might have to dish out a little bit more just to help them feel like they're making progress. But overall, I mean, they're loving it. They had a really good time. I was kind of worried because I figured it was going to be pretty roleplay heavy depending on what they did. But they totally dug right in. They didn't mind that they weren't killing orcs or trolls or anything like that. They were totally fine just talking. It was a lot of fun. And let's see here. Yeah, I've got an announcement, but I'll let you talk first. What's your gaming announcement? We got a gaming one.
So I was thinking for the community, so this is out for the community and everything, is how do we get BSers to play with more BSers and get to play more different games?
Well, you and I have talked about that a little bit here and a lot off the mics because we're like, look, we have a really kick-ass community of really great gamers. And neither you nor I want them tied to only Brett or Sean run gaming and BS games online, right? But there's a whole bunch of good gamer folks out there. Talk amongst yourselves type of thing, right? How do we get them to do that? That's cool. So what do you got? You got a plan? You got a plan?
I got a plan. Marco Froelich, Digital Hobbit, was nice enough to put up a nice looking spreadsheet. And so this is kind of the deal. What I was thinking was we all have a list of it's a Discord or forum topic. List your five games that you'd like to play that you haven't played before, or 5 games you would just like to play, but don't get a chance to do it often.
Yep.
So we got that down. So then we just need some game masters that are like, hey, I'm going to run a game. Who's interested? Well, I know that these 5-6 people put down this game. I want to run that, or I've run it before. I know that game. And it's kind of a pay it forward kind of thing is what I was thinking. So
cool.
What somebody would do is put up on this spreadsheet and say, hey, I'm open to running like this one game, these 3 games, and when I would be available are these dates, or Thursdays work best for me from 7 to 10 Central Time.
And you're operating off a list of games that people said they want to play.
Yeah, well, they could say, I mean, if we had a Savage Worlds guru, and that's what they run all the time, but that Savage Worlds guru wants to play other games, so they run Savage Worlds, but play in other games that other people run. So the person lists like, I'm a Savage Worlds guy, so he or she puts Savage Worlds down, whatever they're going to run this time, this day, and that's it. And then the people that want to play in that game, or the person that's like, I really want to play Savage Worlds, and so they help in rallying up the 3 to 4 minimum players to play for that game master to run. And then since that game master ran kind of for you, I guess, then it would be nice to pay it forward that you would also run a game. It doesn't have to be for the same person, but it would be for the greater community at large and say, well,
cool.
I played this. I'm a Cypher person, so I'm going to run Cypher system.
This is the game equivalent
blah.
of the, at least here in the Midwest, the give a penny, take a penny jar at the
So
do a little bit. Yeah, I like it.
It's that's the mantra behind it. I was thinking, well, can we make a RPG club? I don't know, but it's something to that effect where it's a little bit more. I'm trying to. Well, somebody's got to push it. Like somebody's got to come up with something that's going to make people go, yeah, that kind of makes a sense, or I would certainly want to do that. I think there's going to be time issues, whatever. But if you got one person to run one game a month, That's a lot of games
Yeah. And
in our community. I mean,
and believe it or not, it's actually harder than it sounds to say, you guys should organize some gaming. Yeah, okay. Who's open on
Right.
Thursday? Chirp, 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 chirp. This is tough. This is not easy to do.
So the thing is that I would want, or I'd like to see, is if somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to run this game," and they either just set a date, or they say, "These days coming up would be when I would be available to run this game." Go, players. And then they say, "Okay, cool," and they can just go down the list and say, "Oh, this guy or woman is looking to play or run this game. I'm gonna, hey, who all wants to play in Gabe's 2D20 Codan game? He's running it 2 weeks from now. I'd like to get a party." And then they sign that up. And in that spreadsheet, the game master can say, "For more information on how I run or what tools I use or what the deal is," you go to the forum, go to the Discord, go to my own home website. I don't care where they go. And then they sign up, and then, Mirko's got a place where you can list like the tools you use, and
you
all
play
this
with me,
stuff.
you'll be Roll20. You play with me, you'll be Forge. You play with me, you'll be this, and I like to do this. I got it.
So I will have a link in these show notes to our forums, to our pinned Discord message, and to Mirko's spreadsheet, so that people can kind of plan maybe one game a month. It could be a 2-hour session. It doesn't have to be overly elaborate, but there's two purposes behind it. One, you get to play with other BSers. You might know their names that we throw around on the show, and you're like, "Hey, I know that Kojo guy," and I know Kojo's offered to do that. And they say, "I want to play with him. That'd be awesome." Or and especially if you're wanting to try different games, meet different people, so that when it comes time, when your home group is kind of like they fizzle out, you take a break from gaming, they're not willing to try other games, you've got a source online of I don't know if I would say trusted people. I'd like to say that they're trusted.
Well, we've got a group of
that
people that at least hang out with us, talk like us, act like us, and they're probably smarter than Sean and I anyway. You know the names if you've been in any of our community areas. They're good folks, and they want a game. So, yeah I like it.
Yeah, so that's the big thing. So it's just really starting out. I think Mirko's got DCC up there for a couple games he would run. I think maybe Savage Worlds games, game he would run. I think Herman out of Puerto Rico is going to run Cortex. He hasn't put it in the spreadsheet. He just kind of threw that out on the forums. But I know a couple guys like Saul Zuido and somebody else, Harrigan maybe, that are looking to play in his Cortex game, high level. I'll put something in there, and we'll get that rolling.
Nice. My life is starting to straighten out a little bit after moves and surgery and seemingly decent recovery so far. Yeah, I like this. That's good stuff, Mirko, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's you stepped up, man. Thank you very much for helping me do that. That's hard work. That's not easy.
Mirko's like, "That's a good idea," and he took a spreadsheet and put it up there.
Just banged it out.
You don't. So I should also say, just because you play or you get a party together to play in somebody's game, you don't have to run a game. It's not like, "Hey, we're going to game in police. They're not going to come around you up and throw you in gaming jail."
Yeah. There's no obligation there. We're saying, hey, it'd be cool because at least through this process, you're going to hook up with other folks. You're like, "Wow, they're good people. I'd like to run a game for them." Or
Right.
I know some other cool people. We could play a really cool game. I hope they, so let me try to do this. No, it's nice. Yeah.
The intention is to reciprocate in some degree or another. If you can, that would be great. But as long as people are playing, that's all that matters.
Sweet, man.
So there you go.
Well, in other kind of passing around news, Craig Shipman's got me on Wednesday. Third Floor Wars, his tabletop talk podcast. I'll be there talking to Craig. Craig was really cool. He tried to get me on earlier, and I'm like, okay, I should be able to do this. And my surgery got messed up, and I came back. I'm like, dude, I am so out of it. I can't do anything. He's been great. Trying to pin me down for a time, and very, very, very nice guy. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good conversation. He wants to talk about RPGs, kind of like your history in it type of thing. Talk Avalon, which I always like talking about. So should be a good time. And once we get once I know when it'll land and I get a link and all that stuff, I'll share it out so people can see it.
Yeah, he's going to run Blades in the...
Yes.
Brett and I threw Blades in the Dark.
Yeah.
We could be Fofford and the Grey Mauser.
We absolutely could. We absolutely could.
Who would you be, Brett?
I don't know. Gray Mauser's always tickled my fancy. Smaller
For
guy.
those that don't know, Brett's Twitter handle's like Fofford81 or some bullshit.
Yeah. I've had Fofford01 has like been my online name forever. So yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Sweet, man. That'll be awesome. You'll have to let us know when it drops.
Yeah. Once I get that, I want to cross-populate. I'll do the deal where like, hey, where can you find Brett? I'll drop Amy and BS and all that stuff. But I also want to make sure that when I get the links from Mr. Craig Shipman's podcast, that I spread that around as well. So cool. So that's coming up. That'll be fun. I got that locked in for Wednesday. Let's see. I think any more announcements, or shall we move on? Shall we?
Yeah, I'm good. If you
all right, let's random encounter it up. Let's go.
All right, random encounter. Segment of the show where we field emails, voicemails, comments from social media. First one, we have DM Kojo calling in about, I think, the Goodman Games revamped AD&D adventures.
Yeah, we did kibitz about that a bit, so let's see what he says.
All right.
Hey guys, it's Kojo. Just wanted to call in a couple things. First of all, Brett, glad your surgery went well and you're feeling better. That's great news. And then I wanted to call in, the plot coupon episode, you actually in your diary roll talked about the Temple of Elemental Evil reprint, or not reprint, but the original adventure reincarnated by Goodman Games. And they've done a lot of these now. I think 5 of them I've got. And I love them. And I'll tell you what, I just wanted to call and make a plug because I think there's multiple reasons why this product might appeal to people. All of these are archive quality scans, which are fantastic and way better than what you can get print on demand from drive-thru. Goodman really does a good job cleaning those up and making archive quality hardcover book with the original adventure in it. And I believe that the Temple of Elemental Evil will have the original Village of Hamlet and then the original Temple of Elemental Evil both, along with interviews with the creators and people involved with the project. That's always kind of interesting from a archivist point of view. And then, as you mentioned, there's the 5e conversion. I'll tell you what, I don't play 5e, but I buy all these books not because I want to use them with 5e, although I could in the future for sure, but the stuff that they fill out, in addition to the original published content, when they do the 5e conversion, they really build and expand on the adventures and turn these things into almost mini campaign settings. I know, for example, that the Temple of Elemental Evil is going to include, in the 5e conversion part, more fleshed out elemental nodes and some of the parts of Elemental Evil that originally kind of were left very open-ended and not very detailed. And I like using these original adventures reincarnated. I take the 5e stuff and I backwards convert it to what I'm playing, which is usually an old school version, and use it to run the adventure old school, but with the newer content added in there. So just some tips about these old adventure reincarnated line. It's really fantastic stuff. I've been very happy with everyone I've gotten. Great production quality and very useful, even if I don't play 5e. So just wanted to make a plug for it. It's awesome. All right, man. Talk to you later. Bye.
Kojo, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but especially with Temple of Elemental Evil, there's definitely room for improvement, shall we say, in my opinion anyway, and I think the opinion of a number of other people. And if the 5e component of it adds some more lore, as we would say, right? It fleshes out a bit more, it gives you some more info, some more stuff to work with. That's pretty cool. And even if you make it backwards compatible, which I think is awesome, Kojo, that you do that, because I've done that before too. That's awesome. But I think that if that's something you're interested in, that could be a damn good reason to buy that book right there. I don't know if that captures it for me offhand. I was thinking about it since we have talked about it last, Sean, and Temple of Elemental Evil has always had kind of a near and dear place to my heart. And I think because it was the first really big campaign game I got in on. My buddy Eric Schaefer, who became my high school dungeon master, the main guy. I learned a lot from Eric over the years. I still do some of the tricks and tips that he used back in the day. He ran that, and I got in on the game because he had an opening. I kind of wormed my way into game with him at that time, and he was running that adventure. That was a lot of fun. And
got a little special place in Brett's heart, I
it
say.
Does. Little nooks and crannies of goodness there. So I got to admit the nostalgia is high on that one. But I have the original, so I'm like, do I need it? Do I not? Well, we'll see what happens. But
sounds like it's gonna be split in 2 books.
2 books.
Mirko says, yeah.
Interesting. That could be cool. One of the things that I do not care a lot for, and this is just me, is the interviews with people and their perceptions. And because I kind of don't care. It's interesting in itself, but I'd rather have that in a separate book or somewhere else away from the actual adventure piece. That's just me.
Yeah, it's like having 5 forwards.
Yeah, and that's okay, but just doesn't.
I remember when I was designing this and I had this.
And there is some interesting components to that, and I get it, but I'd like that to be like a leaflet or something that went with it, but not baked into the actual thing I want to run the game with.
Yeah.
That's just me. Anyhow, good stuff, Kojo. Thank you for calling in, man. Sean, why don't you read the next one?
Mark Dawson emails us.
Damn, we haven't heard from Mark in a long time. That's awesome.
Mark!
How you doing, brother? All right, what's he got?
Hey, B&S. It's Mark, official BS archivist, Dawson.
Yeah.
Yes, I've remained a listener all these years despite my lack of direct interaction. Since the last time you heard from me 5 years ago, God, has it been that long? Holy shit. Mark, man. Holy cow.
All right, I hope it's been good things for you, Mark. Sean, read on. I am interested here.
I've won the lottery.
And I've now owned a private island. I want you to run games for me for a living. Oh, my God. We're done.
Fantastic,
we're done.
Mark.
We're done with this. All right, carry on. Now, read the real thing.
I've moved halfway across the country, had a complete change in career, and basically rebooted my entire life.
Holy shit.
Man.
Awesome. I hope sure Sean joins me. I hope it's working.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of change right there, man. And good for you to have the guts to do it.
That's right.
So hope it's working.
Throughout all the upheaval and change in my life, you guys have remained a constant. As a native Midwesterner now living in the Southwest, listening to you guys BS about games is like a little taste of home. So thank you for continuing this podcast.
Well, very kind of you, sir. You're welcome.
Our pleasure. Brett, I know you've had a lot of going on with recent move and surgery, but have you made any progress on creating your own RPG system from scratch? Episode 301. I'd love to hear some of your game ideas as they evolve. Please share your process with the BSers. Who knows? We might be able to help out.
I have, and I should. I think I could probably make that into an episode. I think that could be a topic. I've been monkeying around a little bit. So, yeah, I like that. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to make a note of that. Sean, keep reading while I make a note.
Sean, nice work on the solo episode 323 when Brett was unavailable. I'm sure it was daunting and took a bit of editing to have a one-person conversation, but you pulled it off nicely. Also, how soon are you planning to run Forbidden Lands after your recent conversation with Phil Vecchio? Bonus BS episode 21? Question mark. So, yeah, if you listen to this, Mark, you might be a little bit behind, I'm guessing, but this Thursday, the 16th, 17th, I think it's going to be the date. I don't remember what the date's going to be. Whatever. Yeah. Coming soon. On to my main topic. Do games need a dice mechanic to resolve social conflict?
No.
It depends.
And we're done. Oh, damn it. Sean just made a whole topic out of it. Okay, keep going. Keep reading.
RPGs evolved from tabletop war games, but we've come a long way in nearly 50 years of this hobby. I'm really happy the consumers and publishers of these RPGs have diversified and broadened their sense of inclusion over the years, but so many of the wargaming roots remain intact, which can drive me nuts. In D&D 5e, we have skills like deception, intimidation, and persuasion. But what if the PCs want to parlay or negotiate with the enemy and the DM is hell-bent on the encounter resolving with combat? Murder Hobo hack and slash style play was fun when I was 12, but I'm in my 40s now and I want a little more story and character development from my RPGs. But why not roleplay through the scenario instead of just rolling initiative? You say, well, maybe the GM is adversarial and the roleplay would be irrelevant. Perhaps the players prefer to narrate their characters' actions because they're uncomfortable with improvised dialogue or speaking in the first person. I'm also curious about this topic purely from a game design aspect. So have you played a game or are you aware of a system that has a defined mechanic to resolve social encounters with stats or dice? If not, could you see a value in such a system? Good gaming to all, Mark. P.S. It would be interesting if you guys had James Introcaso on as a guest to talk about his new projects with Matt Colville. Item from Die Roll, episode 327. So,
There's a lot of good stuff in there, man.
Mark,
Good questions.
Burning Wheel comes to mind with the Duel of Wits. I don't know the mechanic offhand. It has been talked about. It is a social-based role-playing game mechanic.
Yeah, we stumbled, talked about it on the show before, but I can't remember what episode it is. Mark, you probably remember better than we do. But yeah, there's... It's interesting. There's a lot of there... I shouldn't say a lot. I'm sure there are other ones out there. We've talked about it a little bit. It might be worth bringing back up around the just kind of the mechanic approach to social things. John, I think that might be a worthy topic just to revisit, because it's one of those pieces where you could talk about it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and what you've read, heard, changed, or thought of since then to now could change drastically how you deal with that stuff. You know, even with the Greyhawk game I'm doing, first edition AD&D, there's no mechanics for social interactions.
Right.
So how are we doing it? You know, I think it might be worth talking about that.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just roll the hit. Initiative. You win. Kill him. That's all we do.
No social interactions.
No one's allowed to be social at all. As soon as they say hello, they better draw a sword.
No talkie-talkie. This is all action.
Only stampy.
It's going to be a mixed bag. Excuse me, it's going to be a mixed bag. I don't think the social interaction where the evil NPC just is going to fight is not a bad. I don't think it's a bad thing, because I don't think that there are going to be NPCs that you should be able to negotiate with. Period. I hate it. I really actually hate it when there are. Well, that's a good argument. Give me a roll, and then it's rolled, and according to the rules, it should slide them down the pissed off ladder one level.
Well, if you look at like D&D 5e social encounter mechanics, you can't go far enough so that Dr. Doom won't kill you. It's impossible. You can't slide more than like one notch, and one notch, if he starts off with "fuck you, you're dead," you can't get him to "fuck you, you're dead" to "I love you like my brother." It isn't going to happen. Right. And I think some of the die roll mechanics that people use are within 5e. Z Bashu, actually the animated spellbook guy, has a neat little animation he did on social encounters. And he's like, I think I've been doing it wrong all these years. And he breaks it down for 5e. But sometimes we take the pass fail of certain mechanics. I'll use D&D for example, and if you pass, you get everything you wanted, right? I try to convince, Dr. Doom not to blow everybody up and save the Fantastic Four. Oh, I rolled a 20. Oh, nat 20. Doesn't matter. Natural 20s have no impact.
He's got to like empathize with me. He's got to come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. I rolled like a 20. I rolled a 35.
Come on, how come
I
it
got
doesn't
like
work?
a 15 diplomacy, and I rolled a 20. It's like 35. This guy's got to kind of understand my argument, Sean.
Yeah, he shoots you in the face for it.
I've never had anybody argue it like that before.
No, never. You've never heard that before?
No, never.
Neither have I. That was like a whole new experience for me right there. I'm shocked.
I know.
But yeah, I think
my bad guy's a bad guy. He doesn't give a shit what you say. He's gonna do whatever the hell he wants. You're not negotiating.
I think it's worth. This is another topic. We're gonna pull it back. So, all right.
This is
Thanks,
Mark.
It's going to Hopper. Thank you, Mark. Hey, dude, and continue. I hope you're having good luck with the reboot, as you say, Mark. I hope it's going well. Game on, and keep going forward, brother.
Hey, and just to keep you Midwestern, how's the weather down there?
Yeah, a little hot. It's kind of cold
hot down there, probably.
Yeah. Remember, warm weather breeds weakness. Just so you know.
Stay cool.
Stay cool. Staying cool down there. It's not the heat, it's humidity. There we go. We'll lay that on you, too.
It'd be a lot cooler if it weren't for that wind.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Well, or for the wind to be pretty warm. Gosh, there, hey. Okay, so let's see, Joshua, 20 comments on Slow Burn versus Hot Start. Sean and Brett, hope you guys haven't recorded yet. Sorry, Josh, we did. Because I want to make you make sure you touch on what Return from the Lazy Dungeon Master says about setting an opening scene. Creating a strong start outline in Chapter 4 consists of 4 bullet points suggested to be used for both campaign and session starters. So, Josh, little joke. Obviously, we missed this before we recorded, but this is still cool. Thank you very much for putting this out there in the forums. So, what's happening? Framing the scene. What's the point? Hook to draw players in. Where's the action? When in doubt, start with combat. Think about it this way. How many of your favorite movies or books start with a group of characters in the stereotypical inn drinking beer? Now, how many books and movies start with a murder or high-octane car chase? Some fiction starts slow in order to build the mundane before dropping the main character into the fantastic. But in my opinion, players have enough of the mundane in their daily lives. Which of these opening scenes would pull you in more as a player? A group of adventurers is in a bar when they are told of disappearances happening in town. Or a group of adventurers is attending an annual summer festival and suddenly a woman bursts through the crowd shrieking, "They took my husband." Both options tell essentially the same story, but one of them encourages the characters to spring into action and solve an immediate problem. I don't think I've ever used a slow burn to open a campaign, since it's the first choice I'm going to get to sell. Since this is the first chance, I'm going to get to sell them on the story. If they're already bored at the outset, why are they going to show up to the next session? For a combat-heavy system, you may not necessarily need to open up with combat, but those players better damn well be rolling those dice after 10 minutes, or else they're going to be scrolling through their phones looking for something more interesting. Even for a game where combat is rare and dangerous, immediately throwing an intriguing mystery at them will make them instantly engaged. Maybe I have the wrong idea of what slow start entails, but I'm curious to hear your arguments for it. So obviously, Josh, you can listen to the episode. I like the points you made there. When we say mystery, it actually reminds me of some Lovecraft stuff. There are a couple, Pickman's Model, The Thing on the Doorstep. I think the Thing on the Doorstep story, the gentleman says something along the lines of, "And that's why I shot my friend." And he tells you the story of how he ended up shooting this person. Pickman's Model is somebody regaling you, the reader, presumably, or like you're there, and he's talking to you about Edward Darby Pickman, how I had to drop him. Oh my God, it was crazy, blah, blah, blah. He's starting in like this chaotic fugue about a thing that happened, and he's slowly getting you back to the beginning. So it's almost like a reverse. You're at the end, and he's telling you the beginning through this process. So even some of those adventures are like right in the middle of it. You know, you're right there. Something's happening. You know, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, I think it works that faster. If the action in a Cthulhu game is the mystery, throw the fucking mystery right now. Boom, drop it on them. Cultists, attack. Weird happening. Someone dies from a mysterious plague. Whatever it is you got to do. Hell, man, Star Wars. What was the very first Star Wars? A New Hope was episode 4. Is that what it was? Okay.
Yep.
So, spoilers. Like, oh, neat. Spaceship. Pew, 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 pew. Oh, my God. Badness. Explosions. Some big guy in a black suit comes in. Where's the ambassador? And chokes a man to death. Holy fuck, what just happened? You don't know who Princess Leia is. She's just running around, cramming crap in droids and then getting stunned. What the hell? You have no idea what the fuck is going on in that movie. At all. For at least minutes. Many minutes. And in movie time, that's a long time. Right? You watch it now, you're like, yes, I know what that is. But if you can harken back to the first time you saw it, if no one ever told you anything, it's like right in the middle of the action. So, anyway, cool stuff. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you bringing it up, Josh. Over to you, Sean.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Ray Otis on the forums about customizing pre-published scenarios. I always cut out repetitive encounters. There are some modules that are filled with endless rooms that are empty and or filled with the same kinds of fights. Sometimes these come from random encounter tables that are either too short or have entries that all feel the same. Figure 2 to 3 encounters per session. Decided about how many sessions your players will enjoy in this space. Then find the best stuff and cut the rest. In other words, let's say you are in Ghosts of Saltmarsh and are infiltrating the Sahuagin base. You want to spend 2 sessions max on it. That means you have about 6 encounters. Give yourself 8 or 9, knowing they will bypass some. Cut everything but those 9. Literally bypass rooms, truncate hallways, or as players move through, just tell them fast forward the boring bits with stuff like, you pass 3 empty rooms. This makes every adventure better.
That is interesting, Ray. I like that thought because there are a number, especially of old school adventures and even some new stuff I've read. Then like, I bet you if I went snip, snip, snip with the Occam's editing tool, chunk, 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 I could make this dungeon 5 rooms instead of 52.
He actually says that in a follow-up post. He'll take
Yeah.
the map, and then he'll chop out all the rooms literally out of the map and then
merge them.
Yeah, merge them, yeah.
That's actually wicked kind of cool. I think this should also work really well if you want to take an adventure that normally would be really long and a huge thing or whatever and crush it down and take it to a con. Or crush it down just for any kind of time space. I think about Wraither running the, Lost.
Isle of Dread, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Isle of Dread. It was the Lost City one. The one with it's basic with Zargon, the big ugly monster, and it's a pyramid thing. You go in. Fuck, I have the module too. Anyway, it's a big module for basic D&D, but he crushes it. And I remember him telling me, we were having beer at Gamehole Con, back when we could actually have a Gamehole Con in person, saying, hey, yeah, I went through and basically truncated, cut out some of the repetition, and just went to the big stuff, the stuff that's really interesting. Because Ray's right. I mean, there are certain adventures, one more room for 5 goblins and one more room for 3 goblins, another 2 to 3 goblins. Fuck, how many times, you can move that along. That's a very good idea. I like that, Ray.
Was it the Lost City?
Yes, Lost City. Thank you. Good grief. Saul's Weedle, Eric, comments on customizing pre-published scenarios. I normally don't run published material, and when I have in the past, I tried too hard to stick to the script, and it was clunky. I'm running the module from the Humblewood box set, and I'm definitely adding my own flair for the NPCs, skipping encounters that seem monotonous, and making sure some encounters happen that are cool. 2 examples. In the beginning, I felt like there needed to be a stronger connection to the village and the PCs. They were sort of outsiders and wanted to add hooks to why they would care about the village. Good idea. I have each character receive an item from a villager before they departed. It was a spontaneous decision, and I really liked how it worked out. My favorite one was probably the hand drawing from a child given to a PC of that child's father who may or may not have been captured by bandits. Please, mister. You see that, right? Please, mister, find my daddy. Good Lord. You care. I mean, that's wonderful. The other example was there was this cool big toad, but it would only appear if the player characters failed on 3 dex saves when it was trying to capture frogs for a hedge witch. She's literally a hedgehog and a witch. Oh my god. I thought it was a cool encounter because, oh yeah, that's right, it's Humblewood. Humblewood is where everybody's animals. Anyway, carry on. I thought it was a cool encounter because when the giant toad appears, there's a cacophony of frog noises. I want this encounter to happen, and I didn't think it was likely they would fail 3 dex saves. So I just decided the giant toad would show up once they had filled their bag with frogs. It ended up being a fun encounter because one character was swallowed by the toad. Lessons learned for me is I can totally use published stuff, but I need to run it how it makes sense to me. It fits my storytelling. Look forward to the cast. Eric, I love that stuff. What you've laid out there is, hey, this is a really cool encounter. Oh, I hope they get to it. You can make sure they get to it. Right? That's what he's doing there with that one. And I love the connection piece you threw out there too. That's wicked. That's cool. Yes, sir. Over to you. You ready?
That's it.
I know.
Main topic.
I'm waiting for you. Oh, back to you. Let's go.
And with that,
yeah. So Matt H commented back on episode 326. I'm reading backwards here. 326 about pre-written adventures versus homebrew. He said, after listening to you guys, I'm going to paraphrase through this a little bit myself, but it'll be in the show notes, the full description. He said, as a newer GM, I started with the 5th edition starter set, Lost My Fandelver, which a group played for a couple of sessions before suffering some turnover players, which caused me to switch. So we moved over to another pre-made adventure. They played Tyranny of Dragons, Tomb of Annihilation. And he says, here's what the crux of it is. It could be because I was new to the hobby when I was attempting to make my own adventures, but I frequently found myself feeling overwhelmed. I'd spend way more time coming up with concepts, working on balance, and wondering if it was going to be good. With a pre-written adventure, I find myself way more at ease. I won't feel bad if things don't work out, as I can just blame the adventure rather than myself. And all I need to do to prepare is read a little bit ahead. However, I'm starting to feel like I'm missing out on some aspects of the game by sticking to the script of a pre-made. Character development feels practically non-existent, and it seems though players have little choice but to follow the path in front of them. So, that got us thinking about, there are ways means, policies, and devices, things you can do to take steps one way or the other, right? So Sean runs a lot of pre-published adventures. I run very few. However, when I played with Sean running games, Star Wars and whatnot, and I know he's running a pre-published adventure. I've never felt in one of Sean's games when I've done them, your mileage may vary, it's never felt to me like I couldn't develop my character, or we were stuck, or it was the adventure was badly written, or anything like that. We just blame Sean, no matter what. But what I'm getting at is that, Sean, I think you do a very good job, or did, at least for me at the time. Maybe you've fallen off the wagon. But taking that pre-published adventure and modifying it a little bit, or tweaking it so that it flows the way you want it to go, right? And even when you and I were talking about how you were going to run Ravenloft, let's take the some of the other angst and issues you've talked about around it. But your preparation for it, I'm going to do this. I want to make sure that, it's not in there, but I want to do this because I can see this adding more. I thought that was pretty cool. So, Sean, when you started, let me ask you. Let me see if I can ask this question right away. I've been thinking about this for a while. Was there a time or a method that you use when you look at a pre-published adventure and say, this is what I'm going to change? Do you read them and think, I need to change that right away? Or do you read them and change it as you go? Or is it just a muscle you've developed over years? How do you do what you do, man?
It
depends.
It does, but and the reason it does is because it's dependent upon what I run, and that means the game and the scenario.
Okay.
And if I can do it up front, then I will. If I think that it's too much of a shoehorn to try to make it or implement it on the upfront, then I'm going to find ways to do it down the road in the sessions, or when they get to a particular milestone within the scenario, or what have you. One of the things, and I don't often consciously do it outright. It's probably, if I do it more intentionally, it's been lately. It's more recent.
Okay.
In the past, I've done it when it's like, I don't really like where this is going. I'm just going to throw this at the party, and it's going to tie into things that aren't in the scenario necessarily. And if it ties to the character backgrounds, great. Or the party decides to go off in a different direction, and rather than say, oh, no, you can't do that, the next encounter's over here. Like, you got all these clues that go over here, but you're not going there. So instead of like trying to, again, shoehorn the party going into that direction, I will just kind of go, okay, they go this way. You guys did that to me in the Star Wars game. At one point, I think I had to change something quite dramatically. I brought in a complete, you guys, I think, were going through a scenario, and you didn't get through the entire scenario. You guys are like, we got this thing, and you took off into space.
We left. You're like, fuck do I do
took off
now?
into space instead of following this lead I gave you guys to go to the next encounter. And so I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do? So then I just took the next adventure that I thought, well, I'll just have them go do this. But now, because they're essentially in between these two pre-pubs, I'm not doing a hard cut and then starting the next session and going, all right, last time we left off, it was The Empire Strikes Back. Luke Skywalker's on a frigate, his hand chopped off.
Yeah.
And he has Leia next to him and looking across, and then, Han Solo's in Carbonite, and who knows the hell he's going. And then when you pick up in Jedi, they're in Jabba's hut, Jabba's palace. That's not how I was going to do it. It ran all kind of into one. So I do it in a few different ways, is the quick answer.
That makes sense. One of the things that I got to say this, I have done, not purposely, but I have done what Ray talked about in the preamble to this, when he said, hey, I crushed the map. I have done that. when we're going along and heat of the moment, I'm like, this is taking too fucking long. Or this is just stupid. Or whatever is going on. Sometimes it's a cue from the players, right? That, wow, this seems boring, right? And instead of saying, so Matt, this is not a knock against you, dude, so please don't take it this way. But it's not, instead of saying, oh, this adventure sucks, it's too bad it's such a slog, I just cut the slog out. And Matt, it sounds like you've been running enough. If you're here right now having a cup of coffee or beer with us, I would say the exact same thing to you. You've been doing this enough with these pre-pubs, you probably have a better developed sense of what isn't working for you than you may realize. And I think that's very true for a lot of game masters, even players. We have better developed senses for once you've been doing this for a while. You run 2-3 adventures, you go through a few, you've got a pretty good idea of what works and doesn't work, especially as a game master, I think, if you're paying attention. And sometimes you got to take a step back. And when you're reading it, and you're looking at that module, and Matt reads it, and he goes, boy, this seems like it's going to be a slog. That is when you take that moment to do what Ray does and crush the map. I don't want to fuck around with this. Instead of it being a 16 hex crawl, I'm going to make it a 5 hex crawl because it's much faster and it'll get to the cool bit. I know this group. I've been running games for them for a while. If I drag this out, this will be a son of a bitch. It isn't going to work. Right? So case in point, I've been reading through Rime of the Frost Maiden when I get ready to run that. So I've been reading it off and on. And there's a couple pieces of it that I'm like, how do I want to start this? It has ideas where I want to start it. I get those ideas, but I have a different idea because I know my players and none of them, except for one of them, really knows the area. I know more about Icewind Dale than anyone in my group. So if I start them in the town, I don't want to deal with certain things of, well, I've been here for 5 years. You said I should know this. I don't want to deal with that. So I'm working out a mechanism to get them on the way into town. They're here for what reason? So I'm percolating reasons that I know my group will do into, right?
Conference.
Yeah, conference. Usually a conference. Yeah, usually. Some sort of, it's like a conference, let's see, for in the age of COVID, for when someone reads this, that's like a webinar, but in person. All right? It's a weird thing that we used to do. It's like a webinar, but people are actually in the same room talking. It's fucking weird. Yeah, well, it was crazy that we did that. I can't believe we passed germs like crazy. Everyone came home sick. Everyone came home sick from them, which is why we don't do them anymore. Anyway, so one of the things that I think freaks people out, as Matt talked about, going like, oh my God, how do I, this pre-pub doesn't have what I want. I want to do my own thing. And then you say, fuck it, I don't like this pre-pub world, whatever that is for you, because I can't get character development, or I feel like I'm hacking this thing up so much. Oh my gosh, I want to make my own thing. And it is daunting. It can be very daunting. I've been doing it for a very long time. Sean's been doing it for a long time. We have muscles developed, as we talked about back in the practice episode and subsequent discussions. Some of the shit just takes time. You've got to figure out how you're going to do it, and you've got to build your own adventure from scratch, and then you'll make some stinkers. We always do, right? It happens. You're going to make one that isn't quite as good. Just like you read a pre-published adventure and someone goes, yeah, that one wasn't as good as the last one, right? There's some DCC adventures I've read that went, oh, that looked okay. I had to modify the fuck out of that sucker. It's not as good as the last one I read, type of thing. However, I honestly think, Matt, that if you take a pre-published adventure, and one of the things that made me, I think, a better improvisational build my own game master than had I tried to do it all cold turkey, was I would start on an adventure path. I'd be reading something. I actually started with a vampire game, believe it or not. When I first started running, I had this adventure, a pre-published adventure. I'm trying to run it, and my character did something crazy, and it was supposed to be a one-shot. It turned into a 15-year campaign. Weird story. But one of the guys, Will, says he's going to do something, and I'm like, that sounds wicked cool. It's nowhere in here. You know what would be really cool? The thing that Chris and Kat just said, if that happened right now, that would be so wicked cool. And I decided I'm going to go for broke. I'm going to break this module right now and go wherever the hell I need to go. I'm just going to follow this weird-ass wild hair path. I'm going to do it. And I think if you read these pre-published adventures and you start doing things like Ray Otis talked about and saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm looking at this map. It's a great map. It's really cool. But instead of trying to assign every room has 2 goblins or 1d4 goblins, how many goblins are on the whole fucking cavern system? 50? Good. I got a pool over here of 50 goblins. I write the number 50 down. And goblins will attack the players as they go through in the numbers that I deem necessary. There's 10 of them. 10. Now there's only 40 left. There are 5 more. Now there's 35 left. You can keep count. 6 ran away. This is this. You know what? They've killed enough goblins. They're done. They're ready to be the end. If you got a list that says there should be 20 goblins left, it doesn't fucking matter. You get rid of them. And you're basically on the fly editing a pre-published adventure, which is something that, Sean, you were doing, right? We modified it on you, the Star Wars one. You said, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of a cut and say, nope, this adventure's over. We have to start the next session exactly where the new module starts. You said, no, I'm going to stitch them. I'm going to find a way to tie it together. Now, I can tell you from being on the other side of the screen, I didn't know you did that until you just said that today.
Yeah, you know.
No, I'm not kissing your ass either because it was a long time ago. But I honestly don't remember it. That's feeling like, wow, boy, this is totally incongruous. There's no connecting tissue here. But I guess when I read Matt's piece, Sean, I kept thinking that breaking away from a pre-published adventure is one of the things that is kind of daunting in it. Is there can be this feeling that if I break it, I can't run this adventure anymore. Now it's no longer the adventure, right? I broke it. I changed the map. I changed the NPC. I told the player characters that red dragon is supposed to be a blue dragon. Now I feel stupid. I've talked to people who've had that angst, that anxiety, right? They made a small mistake or a small modification that they maybe meant or didn't mean. But I think by taking a pre-published adventure and going through it with your own editorial pen and saying, I don't like this. I'm going to tighten this up. I'm going to change this. I know this group of players. I've been playing with them. I've ran through 4 different pre-pub adventures with them. I know what they like and what they don't like. You could read an adventure like Ram of the Frost Maiden, like I am right now. I know the group I'm going to run it for, my home group. When I run it for them, I know what I'm going to do for them. I don't know what I'll do when I run it for BSers because I don't know who I'm playing with yet. Some BSers I do know. I've played with VC before, for example. I played with Jared Rasher and a bunch of other folks, Eileen and others. I've got a fair idea of some of the stuff they like. So I could work with that. But if I get a new player, I don't know. Right? So, but anyway, I'm going to beat it up. I'm going to change it, modify it, hack it up, and I want to make it mine. And that's where you can take things, because when Matt's talking about character development seeming non-existent and so on, you could add those character development pieces in, like Eric Salzwedel mentioned, with the hedge witch and with the little kid. Here's a picture of my daddy. Hope you can find him. That's a heartbreaker. You know, if you can't find the dad, type of thing. So, Sean, what do you think about that? I'm kind of rambling here, but does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, Matt, what you got to do is you got to take what your players are. So there's two camps. There's those that think that player character development will come through play, and then there are some that you sit down in session 0 and you tie a bunch of loose ends together and you determine their motivation because they have certain backgrounds and they have a reason to be together, and they come up with this elaborate, I'm an orphan and grew up on the mean streets of Avalon, blah, 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 blah.
And some people want to do both at the same time.
And some want to do both. But if you're gonna incorporate, if you're gonna hack up a module or a scenario to try to have more character development, because I feel your pain. There isn't really a ton other than what they're kind of thrown into and what they do chemistry amongst the player characters. They're really it becomes a relatively shallow. In my experiences, not always. It's not for every game and not for every game master, but it is pre-published and isn't coming out of your mind and how to leverage your own kind of creativity to convey to the players and the player characters. So that's just kind of the deal. So
Sean, I think from how would I actually tactically do the thing? You know, right? You and I just laid out some high-level stuff. How would I, if I were Matt, how the hell would I actually tactically do this? One, if you're like me and don't like writing in your book, you'll be like, I'm going to write in my book. Then you'll have like this weird angsty panic moment and you won't do it. And you get a notepad and you do it that way, or a Word document, or however you want to do it. But I would start off, however you need to start the adventure, you want to start with how it lays it out, that's fine. But as you're taking your pre-published adventure and you're going through it with your group, you need to pay attention to what the group is doing, what they find interesting, what is working and what is not. And by that, I mean, this last dungeon we went through seemed very repetitive. The players commented on this repetitive nature. There was too much fighting. They're upset because all the NPCs they wanted to talk to the NPCs, but per the official script, this NPC was not talkative because they failed the charisma check or something draconian like that. What you need to do, and this is a post-game thing after the first couple sessions, what worked? What did players like? Sometimes you just have to ask them. And you say, okay, I got an idea. And then when you're preparing for the next session, because you're reading ahead, right? Like you said, I can just read ahead and get ready for it, which is one of the things that Sean has always told me is really handy about pre-pubs. Like, I'll read the next 2 chapters. I'm ready for a couple sessions. Give yourself notes, use sticky notes, whatever it is you got to do to help you remember it. Put them on your GM screen and say, this character, Charlemagne, is no longer... will always talk to PCs. Ignore role-playing note in book. Who gives because this person's got some really cool info. The players want to talk to somebody really cool. The Charlemagne person seems awesome. Or the Vicky character, hey, why can't they they didn't make a certain skill check. Fuck that. Get rid of it. Whatever is going to make the players have a good time with it, you can scratch that rule right out of that book and say they can always talk to Charlemagne or Vicky. Cool. The players get some development there. They get to role play a little bit. They had that session because they talked about, boy, I wish we could get some more role playing in, or you felt that they didn't have it, or you just want to toy with it. In the next combat you have, if it's a D&D adventure and you're going in a dungeon, take a look at that map. Really, read the map. Look at it. Like, it's some of the old school dungeons, man, you would have a 100-foot long corridor with nothing in it. If you're playing old school first edition, dude, somebody had a 10-foot pole with a thief tied to the end of it. They were swabbing the dungeon like a Q-tip, desperately trying to find any conceivable trap for 100 feet. In 10-foot increments, die rolling, mind-numbing insanity. Somebody would try to do that. I've also played with much better game masters who would blow through that much easier. But why is it 100 feet long? Why can't it be 10? Why can't you do like Rayota says and just... You go down the 100-foot hallway, you do your checks, you swab the dungeon with the halfling thief tied to the end like a Q-tip. Nothing bad happens. Cool, you made it. End of it. You don't need to make any die rolls. Or tell them to make 2 die rolls for the whole floor. Everything's fine. They get all the way down. But find ways to truncate, shorten what you know is going to be some boring ass shit. Because if you've already run a couple pre-made adventures like you have, Tomb of Annihilation, Tyranny of Dragons, and some of that stuff, you know what some of the boring stuff is for you and your players. The other thing you remember is that if you ask Brett, hey, Brett, what's the most boring part of Rime of the Frostman that you'd want to cut out? That's Brett's answer for Brett's group. It might not work for you and your group. You and your group are the authority there. Does that make sense tactically, Sean? Like to approach it? How would, I guess... Because I'm trying to think about it from Matt's perspective, if he's going to do this, and Matt, you're not here, man, so I apologize if I'm... I don't want to... You're an experienced person, right? So I'm not trying to say, like, you don't know what you're doing. That's not the meaning here, but Matt's asking for help, so I'm trying to figure out how to tactically give a tip. And, of course, you could do it 1,000 different ways, but what do you think?
Yeah, he's got a lot of things in motion and a lot to unpack in this email/forum post. And you got to bite off little bits and pieces. Like, you can't...
That's very good. That's good advice. Yeah.
You say you're overwhelmed. So my question would be, why do you feel overwhelmed? And you would say, well, I've got this big, thick book, and I got to make sure that...
We talking about being overwhelmed, attempting to make his own.
Right. Well, okay. So attempting to make your own. So what is overwhelming about making your own? Is it coming up with the ideas, the plot points, the tying the things together? And so you get a pre-published module where all that is done and you can read it, which is great. That's what you're kind of saying is your own solution. Fantastic. So if you take a pre-published adventure and you want to make it more of your own, how can you find ways to do that without having to come up with everything that's in the pre-published adventure, right? Because you're reading that and you're taking what's good out of it and applying it, but you think that the player character pieces are shallow. So, Tomb of Annihilation you've run. What's the death curse about? Who is it affected? In the module, it's going to say you're greeted by this woman and she's going to hire you to go because they know that there's this component called the soulmonger and she wants you to find it because she's on her deathbed. Well, who is she to the player characters? So right there, if you wanted to, it doesn't have to be her. It could be anybody you want. So just yank her right out of the module and put in a player character's family.
Or a player character.
Or a player character, for that matter.
Yeah, that person has some...
They're dying.
Yeah. Ronnie the Magnificent, wizard extraordinaire, is dying because of a curse from a demon. Right. And you've been told, after much searching and paying off sages, the only way to do it is the soulmonger thing. Ah, fuck.
And maybe it's that person's dying, and so they've done research and found out that it's the soulmonger is the thing that's behind this, and they've traced that to the land of Chult somewhere. And the people that are accompanying that player character are the player characters recruited them specifically, either their personal or professional acquaintances, or they've somehow come together in that regard. And so then you've got that group together. You can even futz around with their backgrounds to figure out how that coalesces, and then you go on to the adventure. And then, that's just one example to kick that off. It's a little unique with Tomb of Annihilation because you're doing more of a hex crawl exploratory, and then you're getting into the tomb. So it's not like there's a lot of social interactions. There are with some NPCs. And I can get into those with some spoilers, but regardless, then you get into Curse of Strahd, which you also... Did you mention Curse of Strahd?
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
Does not.
He didn't. Curse of Strahd's another one. That's a more of a sandboxy... I mean, they could go anywhere. You could tie... There's so many more player characters, NPCs in that adventure, that you could make any of them anybody's prior contacts. You could have relationships build very quickly in Curse of Strahd because you could have, an NPC fall in love with a player character, or there's some bond there.
Save a town, save a jeweler, save a thief, save a nobleman, and they're beholden to you now. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. So if I unpack some of what Sean just said, I think one of the other pieces is Tomb of Annihilation is a hex crawly type thing. If you want heavier character development from a pre-published D&D adventure, I would say the Curse of Strahd, because there's a lot of people to interact with, a lot of heavy. Yeah. It's gothic horror. There's much more talky stuff going on there. Not a lot of dungeon smashing. There's dungeon stuff in there, right, to wet your whistle on that stuff too, but there's much more talking. Another thing that, I don't know, I haven't read the other adventures, man, but I know in Rime of the Frostmaiden, it has a flowchart. Basically, it says, look, this thing happens. It goes like this. This is the levels you'll be at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are the main points that are going to happen. If you diverge from anything, you can look back on that flowchart and you can build it out yourself. That's the thing I actually used to do. White Wolf used to have in their Chicago by Night, the city setting, it had these little charts, had the different pictures of Loden and this guy and Khalid and these different vampires who hated each other and all this stuff. So I would look at these graphs and these charts. I would fucking forget something. Oh, shit. I made the Nosferatu Primogen friends with this other person, and they're supposed to hate each other. Huh. Wait a minute. They secretly hate each other, but they always are nice in public. Aha. Okay, I've got that. I made a note in my little notebook. Like, I fucked this up. Make a change. So as you modify things, as you add things in order to make sure that you can maintain the integrity, because if you're worried about balance and concepts and through lines and all that story talk that can be very difficult to sort out or create on your own, if you're stealing what's out there, which is absolutely legit, and you build your own little flowchart, how are they going to get from point A to point B? Well, it went to here, they branched off over here, how are you going to get them back? Type of thing. So this one, from a tactical perspective, I think some of the easiest stuff to do is I'm going to go back to Rayotis as that example because I love it. Is hack the dungeons. Cut out the monotony. If you've run Tomb of Annihilation and you've run a couple other ones, Matt, you know how to hack that stuff. And it's same to any other BSer out there, right? If you've run a couple, you've determined a few things. You're like, wow, that was kind of boring. You can start looking at stuff, reading it, or even if your players are going through it, like, you know what? The next set of double doors opens to the Orc King stronghold. The next set of double doors leads right to the center of the tomb. I don't have to have the next 15 rooms. It really doesn't matter. Because they found the secret tchotchke, they got the thing, we could get right to the end. I don't need to fuck about, right? Cutting dungeons, smashing them tighter, cutting overland, which also, goes for overland travel. If it's a game like Forbidden Lands, which is totally different, you don't cut through Forbidden Lands travel. You do that on purpose. But instead of going from, well, this part of Barovia to that part requires 52 checks of this, that, and the other thing, you can streamline some of that stuff. And by doing that, you're moving through repetitive components, as Ray said. And the other thing you can do, too, is if you want to use some of those pieces that are out there, this stuff that one of the pieces that Eric Salzwheel had, which I absolutely love, was the picture of the father. Hey, here's my daddy's missing. And the other one he had for an example is he found an encounter. He's like, this encounter is fucking cool. It's going to happen. I just need to modify how it will happen so that if they engage with this hedge witch, it's going to happen after this point. Modifying it to help improve the chances that your players will encounter it. Not Quantum Ogre forcing them to encounter the giant toad thing, but saying, hey, you know what? Instead of making it a random chance, just say, look, if they take on this little thing, go collect a bunch of frogs, click, you just flip the giant toad monster problem. And the similar thing you can do as you go along. And I think my experience has been if you go through these modules and you start breaking them and hacking them and changing them, and you're going to get a better feel for how you do it, right? How do I need to do it? What do I like to do? What works well for me and my group? And going back and forth through this world of like, hey, I wrote this my own homebrew thing or a pre-made adventure. You're going to end up at a point where you're using the pre-made adventure just as like this little trick bag that you can pull stuff out of, right? I know we've talked about this before in the past. Matt, I don't know if you were hanging out with us when we did, but I know sometimes I have heard about this. I've actually seen it where some players get pissy that you change the official module. They want to play the official module as the official module is written. I don't understand that. Never have. I never really will. I don't get it. Because everyone who's told me that is like, I want to beat the module. I'm like, okay, that's a weird mentality, but okay, go for it. So if you have somebody like that in your game group, you might run into some weird flack because you didn't really run Tyranny of Dragons the right way. Or, hey, Brandolin Red from DCC, I modified it. The whatever adventure for Star Wars that Sean did, he modified it. Why are the players going to be mad? Probably not. The players are there to have fun and have something that has some cohesion to it. That's the be all and end all of it, I think. Sean, does this make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think hit me up, man. Matt, I'll hook you up. Bounce ideas off me. I'll tell you what you should do. First of all, you might be replaying the wrong adventures. Honestly,
that's absolutely possible too. If you've got
Curse of Strahd's the best one for interaction, and you can hack the shit out of it to do it any way you want. I'd have some pretty strong advice on how you would want to do it, and I would also want to ask you what you mentioned in your message that says I'm starting to feel like I'm missing out on some aspects of the game by sticking to the script of a pre-made adventure. Blah 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 blah. So my question to you would be more of a, what do you want to use the pre-published module for, and then why aren't you injecting your own stuff?
And that's where I think the tactical component sometimes of like, look, I injected this into the flow. What does that do? Oh, this was here, and then I removed this other piece by using my own thing. Great, it took the place of. If there's an encounter with a weird person who makes pies in a windmill, okay. You've substituted that with your own thing. Totally fine. Just make a note of that and change all references going forward. Totally legit. Absolutely fine. So I think, Matt, some of this to me, hacking, I think this is almost like, it's making a pre-made into a homebrew, and we're back again if you want to, but using the pre-made kind of as a core, what you're going to bounce off of, is totally legit. The hardest part is that either training your mind so you remember all the changes you made so you don't get confused yourself as you read through, or just keep the right type of notes. So when you interject something into the flow of the adventure, you know what you overwrote so you can make the references going forward. And that, in a pre-published adventure, is easier. If every time it says Helga, you change the name to Holleth, great. Scratch Helga, write in Holleth. There you go. If it's supposed to be Vicky and you actually said Vanessa, fine. Everywhere it says Vicky, change the name to Vanessa, or whatever the case is. But you can do that stuff pretty easily. So, Matt, I don't know if that helped, dude. But
yeah, Matt, we're here to utterly confuse you.
we tried to help. We're not necessarily the best at it, but if other listeners out there have got some other cool ideas like Eric and Ray had, or anything you want to add on to what we have to help out Matt or anybody else who's thinking about ways of doing this type of thing. And Matt, man, if we completely missed the whole fucking point and this is not at all what you wanted, let me know. We'll try it again. All right, Sean, shall we?
Yeah, let's get in die roll.
Die roll it is.
Die roll, 2 to 4 miscellaneous points, game of geekery we want to bring to you. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this week. First one, Call of Cthulhu is big in Japan. So in case you didn't get the memo and you ever want to go to Japan, play some Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
I think the numbers in the article are a little wonk, but I don't know. Who's to say? I thought they were pretty slow. The second highest RPG played, and there's 60,000 copies that are sold. 60,000 seems low, but then again, I guess, I don't know. Next one, What We Give to Alien Gods. Kickstarter for Mothership. I got in. I thought it looked cool. It's very Mothership based. You can play it in any sci-fi horror game. I was kind of impressed by it, and so I kicked it in. And $14,000 of $750 goal was raised.
So I think they'll be okay.
Ends March 1st, 2021.
Very cool.
Kobold Press's Vault of Magic. So if you're a big 5e fan and a fan of Kobold Press, then you probably already know about this one. But if not, they have a Kickstarter that ends March 17th, 2021. It's fully funded. And it's all about the magic. It reminds me of the spell compendium, but it's got items in it as well.
It's a grimoire of new magic items for 5th edition campaigns. Brings wild surprises to your gaming table, from unknown potions to fabled weapons on armor to everyday magic that could become campaign stable.
Yeah.
Neat.
So check that out. And then the next one is Christopher Gray, an old friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Temple and Tombs Kickstarter, built for Year Zero engine, which intrigues me because he's a third party. He's not Free League that's doing that. And he's using their parts of their engine. Halfway there, he's at 3,900 of 6,900, and that ends March 15th. So I have a vested interest in making sure it gets funded because, damn it, I kicked in for that. And Christopher does some good stuff. And he's done multiple Kickstarters. He's delivered. He's not a fly by the seat of your pants night.
Fly by night
Kind of operation. So
as long as he doesn't fly by night with my pants, I'm fine.
He does not.
He does not.
Maybe he could use that as a stretch goal.
He could fly by night with Brett's
Call Brett. Fly by night with Brett's pants. And the last but not least, winter hat. Our own winter hat is available. We have a little beanie hat. So if you're cold, before it gets too warm, you might want to pick one of these bad boys up. It's with the GBS logo on it. So that just got approved on our merchandise store. I have one on order. If you want to see what it looks like after I get one, I'll show you before you order one. But I know some people were requesting it, so check that out. So that's all we have for Die Roll. A lot of Kickstarter action.
Oh, damn.
What are we talking about next week, bruh?
I had something and I can't find my damn notes. Hold on. Let me find it.
I know Ray Otis had some suggestions from the forums.
Yeah, goddamn. I don't know. I've got it out there somewhere. I'll find it, but we'll talk about gaming for sure.
We're going to talk about something in gaming, probably
Absolutely.
role-playing game based.
I'd assume so, yes.
We'll see. Probably have like some random encounters.
Might do that
to put in
again.
there.
Yeah, we've had good luck with that.
Maybe some die rolls. We'll see what
we
comes
might,
up in the next week.
Main topic or something buried in there. It'll be good.
Yeah, they'll all be fine.
It'll be good.
VC wants Delta Green. I'm with you, VC.
Delta Green's good.
That's the next subject he said. Delta Green. All right.
Let's get out of here.
Monday nights, we typically record at 8 p.m. Central Time on Twitch live. You can visit us. Otherwise, we'll put this up on YouTube later. Give us a like and subscribe if you see us there. Otherwise, always catch the audio at your favorite podcatcher of choice. Gaming NBS. Just put that in there. It'll pop up. Otherwise, thank you for everybody that's tuned in live. Thanks for everybody that supported us throughout all these episodes. Thank you for listening, being part of the community. You're awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.